How to set boundaries with clients who drain you and do it without burning those bridges. You love your clients. You want to give great service to them, but some days you just feel exhausted. You feel behind. Like sometimes you care more about their outcomes than they do, or showing up on time, or being professional than they will. So let's talk about how to set real boundaries that not only protect your time and your energy, that peaceful, beautiful place, but it actually can increase your revenue. Welcome to the Aligned Business Series. My name is Acacia Thornton, longtime business advisor and attorney, and this is where we go live 3 times a week to answer your questions and tell you real client stories that people like you, business owners like you, are facing. Things that I have seen over my 20 years of experience and the ways we solved these. Because so many times we feel that we have to come up with the answer and that we have to know how to implement it. We don't realize what we don't know, right? The unknown unknowns are out there, and I'm here to help you see more of those in a way that is aligned to you so you can make better decisions for you and your business. So as always, at the end of this, we are going to have our live Q&A if you want to find your chat and start getting things in there. Now, today's topic, that is what we're here for: how to set those boundaries. How to set those boundaries with those clients who drain you. And so let's take a moment to even kind of look like, why does this matter, right? Other than the feeling drained, isn't that what it is to be a business owner? No, it doesn't have to be. It's one of those things that we're told, oh, business owners work hard, or, oh, you have to feel this way, or, oh, no, you don't. No, you don't. If there's a calling in you that says there's a better way, there is. Right? Because what's happening when you don't have these boundaries? Maybe you felt one of these. Maybe your time gets hijacked, right? You have endless calls, DMs, and emails that you have to respond to. Or suddenly the client is moving and shifting things on you. Oh, yeah, let's meet at 10. And next thing you know, they're like, oh, you know what? I can't meet until 10:30. Can we push it back a bit? Or, hey, you know what? I can't make today's anymore. Can we do tomorrow? Right? Your calendar suddenly means nothing, even though you already have a day planned of all the things that mean something to you, your family, your life, your heart, and your business. You also just get drained. When I teach manifesting to so many of my clients, we don't realize that as entrepreneurs, our energy goes in so many different directions, right? We understand this mentally, but we don't realize how that implements or impacts our manifesting, because your energy is everything. You have to bring your creative energy, your leadership energy. You have to bring your problem solving energy. You have to bring your admin energy. And then you have to actually be there and deliver whatever services and expertise and products you create and promise to your clients the way you promise to be there. That's a lot on your energy. So when our clients aren't staying within the boundaries, or we haven't quite figured out those boundaries are, maybe you're still feeling them out before we can articulate them, that means your energy gets strained in more than one way. And when you have so many things on your plate that can be balanced and can be joyful and be like soul filled, the truth of the matter is, if one drains us, the others slowly aren't living at their highest level either. And you end up becoming resentful about your business or a certain client. I remember certain times when I would be in the corporate world, I would love majority of the people I supported and the business owners, but there'd be those 1 or 2 people. I get those emails and I'm like, oh God, I don't even want to read it. I don't even want to read their email. I would become resentful from supporting them just because they were the type that would cross boundaries, be rude, or something of that nature. And then you feel that you lose respect because your clients are now expecting you to always be there. They're treating you that way. And so you start to wonder, am I really that good at what I do? Am I worth respecting? If nobody is respecting me, am I worthy of respect? The answer is, of course you are. Of course you are. But you also are giving more than what you're being paid for. You're giving more than what you're being paid for. So you're losing your self-value internally as a person, but also as a business and a business owner. And then you're expecting, people are being taught to expect you to be available. They're expecting that access and not the outcomes. And what all this does is when you start to doubt yourself, not have the same revenue, not be able to, if you planned for 1 month of services to mean this much revenue, and suddenly that 1 month of services is 3 months, you don't have the revenue to survive, let alone grow. Let alone grow. And that's important because businesses are meant to grow and thrive, and you're meant to thrive with it, not be chained to it, not be a slave to it, not yielding to your clients. So I'm going to share with you a story right now. This is about one of my clients. She is both a coach, she does great business coaching, and she's also a designer. She used to work in the agency world. A lot of great experience help making marketing packages, logos, and those types of things. So oftentimes her clients like to get both of those from her. How do I build my business? And then give me these amazing, Fortune 500 level type agency visuals and marketing assets. And she had a client that signed up for both of these. She had a contract in place for both of these things. And she was showing up 100% of the time, on time, prepared with whatever worksheet, questionnaires, whatever samples and mock-ups. She was there. She was ready. And the client would show up too. The client would show up, but then the client would postpone the call or postpone the outcome of the call. Oh, I couldn't decide yet. I don't know, or I didn't get to it yet, and all of these things. And eventually the client starts to show up late to calls and not really be there, or use the calls as a emotional venting, not for real coaching. Coaching means there's a goal. There's a step forward. There's a goal per call and there's a goal on the outcome. But when there's just emotional venting, you suddenly feel more like a psychologist than a coach. And that's what was happening here. That's what was happening with us. And so she started to feel drained, exhausted. And then the coaching package was up. It was a 3-month coaching package that was up. And yet the client, her customer, never got to the point where she could do the marketing materials, where she could set up the website, all of those things that were promised in the other agreement, in the design and marketing agreement. So what did my client do? My client kept giving more coaching calls, kept trying to get her client over that finish line. And eventually, 9 months later, after an entire year, while only being paid for those initial 3 months in that design package, she ended up terminating that agreement, canceling it. And she actually had to refund 80% of the design work. She had to refund it, even though what fell through was not her fault. It had nothing to do with her. She was professional. She was on time. She was there. She was ready. It was the client that kept extending the boundaries. It was the client not showing up. It was the client exhausting my client. And that led to her feeling drained. So what did we do? We did 2 core things here, because your clients will mirror the standards you set. And I'm going to bust a myth here in a second. Your clients will mirror the standards you set, but it's not just your presence, your words, and your vibe. You're going to see there's a whole other way that in business, we have a different way to be supported. Personally, in your personal life, it is you. But this is your business, which means you have more resources available to you. Because when you don't define what active participation looks like for the client side, and you know what, I wasn't going to do this, but I want to throw this in here today. I have a guide that I created totally free. This is absolutely free. 7 signs you're over giving in your business guide and how it impacts your revenue. So this is a really great guide. I think I've only offered it once in my Aligned Business series before, but I think this is really helpful because it breaks down 7 different areas where we overgive as business owners that we don't need to. And in fact, there's going to be an answer, a support system that can do the work for you, because this is a business and not a personal situation, even though it's you and your personal business. So if you want that, that's there. But back to, where does this come from? The standards you hold your client to and what it takes from their end to achieve your best in the delivery. because so many services, and it doesn't matter if it's a consulting service, it doesn't matter if it's design or website, it doesn't matter if it's coaching, and even custom products, physical products, you need your customer to participate for success. You need their presence, you need their answers, you need them on a timeline with milestones and deadlines, and you need them to say yes. You need them to say yes to things when you need that, because you can't give your best if they're not there too. So this is one of the key areas in business where it's not just what you're saying I'm going to deliver to you, client. Their only obligation is not paying you. There's more you need from them for success. And we want them to know that. We want them to lean in and say, yes, I'm ready to give you these resources. I'm ready to give you these answers. I'm ready to work on this timeline, not just to hold you to it, but hold them to it. And so where do we get to do this? We get to do this in our contracts, in your client agreement. And that's why it's great right there. And I'm going to show you the exact clauses to put in there in a second, okay? It's great in the client agreement because your client has agreed to it. That's part of the empowerment, is that your client agreement can say these things for you. You can decide them and feel into them when you're energetic, when you're happy, when you're loving and aligned to your business. And then communicate them in the agreement right up front. And your client knows. And they've said yes to it. They have said, yes, I'm willing to work on these times. Yes, I'm willing to understand these are the boundaries. Yes, this is what is expected of me. Yes, this is what happens if I ghost you. This is what happens if I show up late, if I change things last minute on you. Because that client needs you at your best. And so it is right and appropriate for us to tell them what it takes to do that and to have that agreement ahead of time. So I'm going to bust 2 myths for you. And both these myths are in that guide on there, that 7 signs you're overgiving. There's 4 myths, but we're going to go through 2 of them right now. And the first myth I want to bust out of the water right now is that boundaries are just for you and not your clients. Not at all. Not at all. As we've already started to lean into here, clear boundaries aren't just for you. They actually make your client feel safer. Feel safer. How many times when you've been the client or the customer, do you love it when there's an agreement that clearly says how things are going to work? You feel better because you know what's included and what's not. And you can start asking questions. Well, hey, I thought this was included. Why isn't it there? Or, hey, if I want these extras, good, I already see they're available to me. But here's the value exchange that I'm going to have to give to get that. So there's no surprises on either side. They actually make your client feel safer, not just you. And they also know their options before something becomes an issue. They know if this is the deadline you're going to hold them to, well, here's what the options are if you can't meet that deadline. Here's what the options are if we need more calls. Here's what the options are if you need more samples, more revisions. They already have that clarity. And so they don't have to worry about silence, guessing, or awkward conversations. But neither do you. You don't have to worry about silence, guessing, or awkward conversations because there's clarity. Clarity builds trust. Clarity is trust. And so that's why I want to bust that first myth that boundaries are just for you and not your clients. Not at all. Boundaries are for the relationship. All parties, both people in there, they get to say yes to clarity from the very beginning, knowing that no matter what comes along next week, next month, at the end of this project, hey, if there's questions when it's all done, where do we go? What are my options? And you're going to have those answers to both you and your clients. So again, these myths are in this guide, the 7 signs you're overgiving in your business guide. And the other myth is that to have, set, to hold, and to reinforce those boundaries, you have to do it yourself. False. Absolutely false. Your contract can do it for you, and it can do it better. You don't need to get geared up for these hard conversations every time you feel drained, or every time something goes off the rails, or just doesn't feel right, or, oh, I got to get this client reeled in. It's like herding cats. Let your contract be the one who communicates and holds these boundaries for you. Because if things get messy later, you're not the one having to figure it out in that depleted space. You know it's already done. So you just simply have to point back to the clear agreed to. Remember, your client agrees to this structure that both of you already signed on for. Just remind them it's there. Hey, don't forget, this is our last revision and the extras are going to cost $250 each as per the agreement. So you don't have to be the one doing all the work when you put these into your agreements. So what exactly do you want in your agreement? Okay, let's go through this. 2 key things to set those boundaries with love and clarity in a way that elevates you and your client and will make you more money. You ready for that? Yes. Okay. So the first is called an acceptance clause. Now, what is an acceptance clause? An acceptance clause defines done. It defines done no matter what. Done even if you didn't show up for the calls, even if you ghost me, even if you drag things out, even if you want more revisions, even if there's a milestone change or a deadline change, done is done. And it does it in a way that is flexible based on where you are. I've had some clients ask me, like, don't I have to predict that up front? I'm like, nobody can predict the future. We want it to go a certain way. And with more experience, we can usually get things on a timeline and keep them there. But they don't always go that way. I see some questions and don't worry, guys. I'm definitely going to get to your live Q&A here in a second. So yeah, keep those questions coming if you have them. I love it. But the acceptance clause defines done. And what it does, why we call it an acceptance clause, is it says this part is fully accepted by the client. They've fully accepted it. And under the law, when it's accepted, now payment is due. Payment is due. So an example would be you send your client the final work and the tracking says it's been delivered. Weeks go by, you're good, right? Well, not necessarily. It's a limbo. The limbo, unless there's something that actually says this means done. Because one thing that happens when clients are happy, sometimes they don't tell us that. I had a doctor who was like, yeah, I used to always get worried when my clients would never come back to me, but then I realized they're not coming back to me because they're healthy. If your client receives what they ordered and they're happy, well, they're not going to come necessarily tell you that. But they could come back a month later and be like, oh, you know what? It arrived damaged. Or, you know what? This isn't working the way we thought it would. I had a consulting client that happened to a lot. They'd deliver each milestone. The milestones would be done. The client would accept them, go start to implement them. And then while my client was in the middle of the next milestone, doing the next deliverable, their customer would come back and be like, hey, we need some revisions to the milestone that was done. And my client's like, no, that's done. And it's like, well, where's done? The acceptance clause will tell you. They didn't have one, and now they definitely do. So if you want to know how to get an actual acceptance clause into your agreement, that is why I created the Align Clients Paid with Purpose program. It's 3 modules. And the first module is walking you through what do you want your acceptance clause to look like? You get a worksheet, and then you literally get the copy paste terms. You just copy paste right from that sheet straight into your client agreement. So you don't have to write anything. You don't have to draft anything. You have decided this is what I want done to look like at each of these phases and so on. And then you just copy paste what you want right into your client agreement. So you don't have to do this from scratch if you don't want to. That's my Align Clients Paid with Purpose program. And then the other things, we've been talking about the acceptance clause. Acceptance clause means done. It's accepted. And this would have happened with my the story I told you earlier at the coaching client, right? She could have said, look, this is what this package includes. And you, client, need to show up on these levels this way, these timelines. And if not, my part is considered done. My part is done. I'm not going to owe you a refund. I'm not going to owe you another 60, 90 days, weeks, or months worth of service here. I have done my part. And this communicates what you need to do yours to make this part done and moving forward. Because you can't move on to milestone 2 if milestone 1 is never done, which is why it's important to have that acceptance clause there. And then the other clause you're going to want, and this is where you really start to make money. So the acceptance clause triggers done. Triggers done no matter what. Ghosting, responsive, revisions, no matter what, the acceptance clause triggers done. Done equals payment. So now your payments aren't going to be delayed. A scope creep clause. Scope creep is amazing. There's also one in the Aligned Clients Paid with Purpose program. That's what module 2 is walking you through your scope creep clauses. And then you choose which one you want. And yeah, put them right into your contracts. But scope creep is where the money starts to build and where you have the boundary. You have the boundary. What a scope creep clause does is it says, this is what's included. This is the boundary. If you cross the boundary, here's the value exchange. 2 revisions are included. If you want any additional ones, this is what they cost. This is the impact. And that impact could be time. Hey, if you come in at the 11th hour and want another revision, I need 10 more days to do that. I don't have to rush because you're rushed, dear client. So the scope creep clause is what does this. And you can have as many scope creep clauses as you want. What I like to advise my clients to do is anytime the client might ask for something else. What is it? Where's the line? And what do you want as a value exchange? So with the coaching and design package story I told you earlier, keep those questions coming in, guys. I see them. Keep them coming in. That the scope creep would have said, hey, you get this many coaching calls, right? And if you need more to get through these packages, through this designing package, this is how much they cost. And if you need more revisions and you need more updates, more mock-ups because you're not quite feeling it, okay, here's the value exchange. See how different that would have gone for my client, right? Her customer was able to just keep asking for more coaching calls. Well, I haven't decided on my brand yet. I haven't decided on the website yet. And so my client keeps leaning and giving in because she's trying to get what she promised to deliver, a website and a design package with logos. But if her contract had said, hey, every extra coaching call is going to cost this much. Every extra mock-up is going to cost this much. Her client would have started to shift how they were using the time together, how they were making decisions across the timeline and the milestone. They would have been like, crud, this is my last call about this. I either need to make my decisions or decide something else. It actually empowers the client. It empowers them when they can make these decisions, but they can't make those decisions if we don't give them that information. And that information is simply, where's your boundary? And your contract does the work for you. So that is what the Aligned Clients Paid with Purpose program is. Module 1 is that acceptance clause. I'm going to give you more stories, more examples about how business owners are really facing these things and doing them. And then give you the ones to copy paste right in. Same with module 2. That'll be your scope creep clauses. It'll give you more examples, more ways in a worksheet that you can make these for you and your business. What do you want there? And then it gives you the exact terms, just copy paste right into your client agreements. And there's actually a third module. You get another one that helps you preserve the aligned clients and make sure you're getting paid for all the work you do, no matter what. All right, I see these questions coming in. Let's get to them. What do we have? I gotta scroll a bit. There's a bit of writing in here. I love this. Okay. How do I set boundaries before the client signs without scaring them off? Okay. How do I set the boundaries before the client signs without scaring them off? As we've kind of been talking about, there isn't scaring them off. If this is the right client for you, if this is an aligned client that's going to treat you the way you want to be treated, do business the way you do business on the timeline you like to do it, they're not going to be scared. They're actually going to feel clarity. They're going to feel more trust because they're like, oh my gosh, this person, how they do business, that's exactly how I wanted to do it. Because they don't have to wonder anymore, are they with the right person? And when your client agreement says that, when it does the work for you, I have some clients that they have a bigger onboarding and offboarding. And so they walk through some of that in the onboarding, or just let them know, hey, it's in this part of the agreement. This is what's included. And if there are extras, here's where it is in your agreement. So how you choose to do that, is your personal space. But up front, of course, in the agreement, it's written, and they're agreeing to it. When they sign and agree, that's what they're doing. They're agreeing that is how they want to work with you. But you can also do it in your onboarding if you wanted to. And like I said, if it's scaring them off, that's good. That means that wasn't going to be how they treated you and your business anyways. So it wasn't an aligned client. It's okay to let those ones go. We want people that are going to excite you and help you build your business, not drain you. That's the whole point, right? Not drain you, not create conflict or drama. We want peaceful, happy businesses. What's the best way to explain my availability or office hours in the contract? Cool. Availability and office hours. I like to recommend that one, how they're allowed to communicate with you. Not just your availability in your office hours, but how. Are they allowed to get a hold of you by text message, Voxer, email, voice messages? Like I have a lot of international clients, so I work with WhatsApp a lot. So, okay, you can reach me on WhatsApp, but I don't use Voxer. So I make that clear in my agreements. This is how you're allowed to communicate with me. This is how I'm going to communicate back. You're allowed to pick one. I like it when my clients are in one place. I don't want to emails are, of course, are necessary for certain documents or certain writing things, but emails and then one form of communication. I don't want to have to scramble to find out where your last message was. So I like to say where and how we're communicate. The availability. You have access to me Monday through Friday, 10 to 4 Pacific time, right? List the time zone so everyone's on the same page. Again, I work with people across the globe. My vendors are across the globe. My clients are across the globe. So we all kind of know that, all right, I'm going to just dump this in there today and I'll get my answer first thing in the morning because they'll see it overnight and respond then. And so we just get used to that workflow, and it's a great workflow. So your availability, how, the days, the hours, and list that. And you can have different ones for different clients. I know some business owners, they're private clients who are paying 5, even 6 figures to them. Well, they get a different type of access, and maybe a weekend or a night access, where those who are just doing a little one-off thing or smaller project with them get more limited access. So that's what I do. How, the days, the times, and then last but not least, how long you have to respond. Because saying I'm available 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, it doesn't always mean I'm able to respond right away. Like right now, I'm in the live with all of you. If a client messages me, I'm not going to be able to respond to it for at least 30 minutes. And that's if I get to it immediately. Maybe I have another client call. So I also like to say, I have this much time to get back to you. And so they know, and I don't have to remind them every week, hey, this week, Monday through Thursday, I've got this. It's clear in my contract. So that's a great question. That's part of the boundaries that you're setting when it comes to the deliverables. And you can even put that in your scope creep, right? If you want beyond this, there's a fee to that, or there's a time difference to that. Whatever that is for you. These are your boundaries. You get to put them your way. I feel bad saying no. How do I set boundaries without feeling cold or harsh? Okay. I feel bad saying no. Let's just start with that. Why do you feel bad saying no? This is your business. A business is a value exchange. Here's my goods, my services, my expertise. Here's the payment. Here's this. And what about that is making you feel less? Or what about that is making you feel uncertain, a lack of confidence? Start with you, because your clients aren't asking you to feel bad. Your clients didn't come to you because they wanted to make you feel bad. So that's something internal. And I know I've had my own, and not with my services, but with some of the other areas of my business. I had to really think, I'm like, why do I get tense when I do this part of my business? There's a part I love, but then there's a part that my stomach tenses up. Why? And I started to learn some very interesting things about myself. And as I would heal them and let them go and honor them, because that's all it takes is hearing that part of you, just a part that hasn't been heard. Hear what it has to say, respond with love. You can always, if you want, we can have a clarity call about it if you want to sign up for a clarity call with me. But I would start with, why are you feeling bad saying no? Because you're not actually saying no to a client. You're saying, here's how we work together. Here's how success is achieved together. And then setting those boundaries is not, like I said, boundaries aren't a wall, right? We don't have clients so we could put walls between us and them. We have boundaries because they say, this is how we succeed together. This is how we move forward. If you want to meet these deadlines in this timeline, dear client, I need you to respond within 48 hours. I need you to get these things to me by this date. These are your responsibilities to help us achieve this outcome on these deadlines. That is what a great boundary is. So it shouldn't feel cold or harsh. I hate using the word shouldn't. But I would explore that, because this is success for you. What does success look and feel like? And then get yourself aligned to that, and your client agreements aligned to that, and you'll be surprised what happens with your clients. What if I lose the client by setting firmer boundaries? Very unlikely. Very unlikely, right? Because there's two parts here. I'm setting firmer boundaries. So let's do two things here. You're not going to lose a client that wants to do business the way you want to do business. They're going to love you for it. They're going to trust you more. They're going to know you are their go-to. You're not just getting them with the branding and your energies and your vibes. You're getting them with how you actually move from A to B to C to done. And they're going to love you for that. So you're not going to lose the right clients. The clients that are going to walk away are the ones that were never going to respect you or treat you the way you wanted to be treated in the first place. And so that is a good thing to have. Firmer boundaries, I think that's an interesting phrasing of words there. Firmer, it's never what you're doing, it's how you do it. It's never what we're doing, it's how we do it. If we just come along and go, client, okay, you're out of calls now. The next one's going to be 250. They're going to be like, what? I had no warning of that. I didn't know that. But if we tell them up front, right, and you're onboarding and in that client agreement, they've agreed to it. And they're like, okay, I already knew this. Now I can make a decision. That doesn't feel firm. That feels safe. That's clarity. Also reminding them, hey, we only have one call left. I want to make sure you get everything you need out of this. And that's one thing I always advise my clients to do, is communicate the value to your client for them in doing this. Hey, I'm going to need to hear back from you within 48 hours. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to stay on this deadline. We're going to have to move things. And I really want you to get this on the timeline you wanted it. You said you needed it by the end of the month. In order to make that happen, let's do this. So when we communicate things, not just from our side, but how it helps them, how it is valuable to them, how it helps them meet their goals or their intent, they're 10 times more likely to sign on very, very quickly. So they don't feel firm at all. It all comes to how we do it, not what we're doing. Yep. Okay, I think I saw one more in there. What if the client already paid but still expects more? What if the client already paid but still expects more? Okay, so paid doesn't always mean accepted. That's one of the key reasons to have an acceptance clause. Paid does not always mean accepted, especially because a lot of times our payment plans, payments up front, or it's along the way, monthly, but that doesn't mean that they've gotten everything they've asked for. So how do we know when we're done is done? If they've already paid and they're asking for more, I would first go back and look at the contract. What is payment equal that they get? What was listed in there? Payment equals a full coaching package. Okay, well, did you define what a full coaching package is? Did you define when the end date is? See what you can find in there, because payment just means one part of the value exchange for the other part of the value. Right? They give you payment, you give them this back. What is your give back, the exchange for that money? So just because they've paid doesn't mean that you have to keep going. These boundaries, especially that scope creep as well, right? That says this is the boundary and here's when you have to pay more, or here's when there's a different value exchange. So it not only says what was included, but what happens when we go beyond that. It starts to explain when there's more for them to pay. And that creates a clearer boundary with them. So I would look at, what did you write in your contracts? Of course, update them with acceptance clauses so you know when done is done, but also that scope creep clause. So you have that added layer of a boundary that says, this is what level of that was included. Here's what happens if you go beyond that. And then you should be good and set there. And again, if you want an acceptance clause already done for you and customized for you, or you want a scope creep clause, the Align Clients Paid with Purpose has both of them in there. There's 3 modules. That is modules 1 and modules 2. You're going to also get revenue boosting worksheets in there that are going to help you walk you through. How do I want this to affect my business? How do I want my revenue to be aligned to this? How do I not want it to be? Make your own decisions for you that feels good so that these are truly yours and how you do business. Because if there's one thing that applies to every single business contract around the globe, no two are the same. No two should be the same. Because even the 2 biggest competitors, Apple and Microsoft, for example, their contracts don't say the same thing with their clients at all. Why? Because they do business differently. And so do you. And so you want these aligned to you. And that is why it's called the Aligned Clients Paid with Purpose program, is you're going to keep those aligned clients. They're going to treat you the way you want to be treated. And you're going to get paid with more fury, more purpose, and on time for every piece of the value exchange that you give, no matter what. All right, we are excited because next week we got 3 main times. We're going live again 3 times. How to make sure you still get paid when your clients reschedule on you. So we're going to have that one. How to stop clients how to stop projects from dragging on forever and without having to fight with those clients. How do we keep those deadlines in place? What do we do there? And then last but not least, next week, we're also going to have how this one tiny sentence in your client agreement, which is almost in every single template that you got online or AI, how it can lose you all of your revenue. And I'm going to tell you a client story about how they lost 5 years of revenue over one simple sentence. Like the sentence is like 7 words long. All right. This has been Acacia, the CEO Legal Coach. I will see you all.